What is something that people think is helping but doesn't actually work? Right, that people think it works, but it really doesn't. Have fun watching. Story 1. This is kind of niche, but this winter we got a lot of snow. I was rocking my car back and forth to get it out, and some guy ran up behind me to try to push. I lost all of the momentum I had because I had to avoid running him over. I ended up completely stuck after he pushed me into a snowbank. Then he just left. Story 2. Surprisingly, a lot of buttons out there. Not all, but most. Those elevator doors will close by themselves. The pedestrian light will tell you when to walk. A lot of buttons are there because we need to feel like we're interacting, but really aren't connected to anything. Story 3. Change petitions. No change petition ever in history has accomplished anything meaningful. All it does is harvest you contact data to sell. Also, it gives you the feeling like you did something, so you don't go out and actually do something. It's less than nothing. It's actively a detriment to every cause. Story 4. I am an American that has been living in Japan for 17 years, and this kind of thing happens to me all the time. I speak Japanese, so whenever I have to ask a random Japanese person a question, like, for example, asking for directions, I will ask in Japanese something like, me in Japanese. Excuse me, do you know where the train station is? Then the Japanese person will look up and see that I am white, and then panic. Even though I ask them a question in Japanese, they sometimes freak out, and their brain starts racing about how to reply in English as they automatically assume I don't understand Japanese, even though I asked the question in Japanese. So they will reply with something like, Japanese person in broken English, you, straight, left turn, happy face, McDonald's, America, train station. It's so super nice of them to try to speak my native language to help me out, but your answer makes no sense and doesn't help me at all. If I ask the question in Japanese, please answer in Japanese so that I can find out how to get to the damn train station. Story 5. Being a prick to someone you're arguing with online or bullying strangers on the internet more generally. Needless, condescending attitude isn't helping your cause, whatever it may be. I've been guilty of it too, but it's only good for emotional gratification and is in no way demonstrative of moral superiority. Story 6. Saving the planet. Everyone thinks that if everyone does their bit, it's going to magically save the Earth. But in reality, the entire of the UK might just make up the effects of a single oil rig if they all do as much as they can for the planet. Do your bit is good. But if everyone did their bit, there would be a lot of things in uproar because no one makes it anymore. Story 7. Telling chronically ill people about new meds, treatments, herbs, spices, boiled newts, spells, hanging upside down like a bat in a volcano, swimming through lard on the first Sunday after Lent, will cure their condition. Trust us, we know what's there and we're not stupid. A shot of yogurt with a teaspoon of cinnamon in a morning does not lupus cure. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. Yep, that was one I was recently advised to take by someone online who thought they knew better than my team of 7 specialists. Story 8. Hate to say it, but recycling. I really wish it worked. But it doesn't. There are only a very few lawn chairs made from recycled plastic. The vast majority of this stuff is not recyclable in the first place, so the company sends it to the dump, which is actually the good part. The bad part. They ship off stuff that can be recycled to some third world country. That company takes the cash, dump the stuff in the ocean, and wait for the next shipment. Very disappointing. Rather than extracting new oil to burn for power or heat, we would be better off burning the plastic with proper scrubbers. Failing that, sending it to the landfill in our own country. Story 9. Spamming your Instagram story with random statistics and info on whatever tragedy, controversy is going on in the world at the moment. Courtesy of awfuls most of the time, I often find that awareness is not the issue for these topics. Nobody is going to read their post and suddenly become swayed towards agreeing with their take who wasn't already agreeing with it. If we want to affect change, we must do the work to reach out to and convince those who disagree with us in the most effective way possible. Story 10. Protesting for Palestine to local governments who have no jurisdiction in international affairs, but still living in America. All it does, it hurt the movement as more and more people get irritated by them when they can't get to work on time, have to pay extra fees at the daycare because they blocked the road, or people who couldn't get their organ transplant on time due to them blocking the entrances to airports. Story 11. Trickle-down economics. Though I don't think many people still think it is helping anyone but the rich, and that's the problem. It doesn't help anyone but the rich. They don't stay rich by spending windfalls, give tax breaks to the poor, and they have to spend it, so it goes 100% to GDP. Give it to the rich and they save some of it. Give it to corporations and they issue stock buybacks. That is, they give it to the rich who save some of it. Money goes to money. There are simply too many ways that the money just swirls around amongst the rich without benefiting anyone else. Story 12. Donating anything to Goodwill, half of those donations gonna be in the dumpster, and the other half gonna be most likely marked up to basically new prices. Hit up a homeless shelter or a soup kitchen and ask if they accepted donations. Most often they do. Story 13. Recycling. I suspect it's a diversionary tactic, so that we think we as individuals are making a real contribution and difference in the climate change battle by sorting our waste, while the polluters and big business rape and defile the planet. I think we are fucked. I'll be long dead when it all falls apart. Story 14. Stop throwing out options when I'm trying to decide on something or remember something. I get brain fog a lot, which makes it a lot harder to make even a simple decision, and people will start suggesting things to make it easier on me. Unfortunately, it actually makes it more difficult, because every time they interrupt my train of thought, I lose it and have to start again. Story 15. From working in retail, placing thing back on the nearest shelf. If it's on the floor, or handed in at the checkout, or anything obvious, we can see it and replace it. If it's hidden amongst other products, we might not put it back for weeks. Unless you're putting it where it belongs, don't bother. Story 16. Anything to do with the gym. Supplements, pre-workout, protein. These are all complete scams for idiots. Exercise and good diet is all you need. If you want to look like a movie star, you need steroids. Simple as that. Everything else is essential oils for gym-tards. Story 17. One example might be the notion that multitasking improves productivity. Many people believe that doing multiple tasks simultaneously allows them to get more done in less time. However, research has shown that multitasking can actually decrease productivity and lead to more errors. The brain isn't designed to focus effectively on multiple tasks at once. So when we try to juggle multiple tasks, our attention becomes divided, resulting in poorer performance overall. It's often more effective to focus on one task at a time, giving it our full attention, and completing it before moving on to the next task. Story 18. As someone with a mum who has cancer, it's not helpful to refrain from asking people that are grieving how they are, or asking how someone's sick relative is if they haven't died yet. It's not the asking that will make me sad. I'm already sad, and there's nothing you can say or do to change that. And that's okay. What can make me feel less alone, though, is you asking or just simply saying, I don't know what to say, but I'm so sorry you are going through this. Just don't hold off from saying anything because you are afraid of making me more sad or because you are afraid of creating an awkward situation. It's not the asking or talking that makes me sad. It's the situation. Story 19. Those empty and generic platitudes people trot out to act like they are such great people. I get that their intent might be decent, and how sometimes people trauma dump or make it an all-nighter dayer. Sometimes it just takes a second to realize that someone isn't going to be like that. Then you got these communities that are supposed to be a hybrid of another, but also supportive and encouraging, when all they do is keep people paranoid and dependent on their support. Just from what I have seen, those people end up being crybullies, like they don't work on themselves, so simple things most other people wouldn't be bothered by and the slightest gets taken as some sort of personal attack. It all ends up being that toxically positive sort of thing. I'm not saying people should be mind readers, just a bit more tactful and I guess pragmatic. Treating everyone who's upset in one way or another like someone who's going through depression is patronizing and dismissive, or treating someone like they are radioactive otherwise, like they are listening to reply and not understand, or however that goes. It's just this weird knee-jerk reaction and could easily be avoided. I'm not sure how many people actually respond well to this sort of thing. It feels like only a small faction of people do. Story 20. My wife and I have been staying 2 hours from home in the NICU with our premature son for going on 6 weeks. While this is true for other areas of life, it has really been getting under our skin lately. My family has texted a couple times saying they're praying for us and to hang in there. But prayers and words don't walk the dog, help with laundry, feed us, visit to lift morale, etc. Prayers do nothing tangible to actually support us. They are a cop-out from providing real help. Story 21. Not knowing what to say when someone dies. There are the cliché ones. They are in a better place. At least they aren't suffering anymore. RIP. Totally did my head in when my dad died. I could have shot everyone that said he's in a better place. See if you want to be in a better place, should we? The best I got from anyone and now I do to others is I know how you feel. We can talk anytime you are ready. Story 22. When people just start pushing my bike, I'm a small girl on a big bike already on tiptoes. Anytime a man comes up, they will always help me get my bike out of a parking spot by just pushing, not considering that a little push in the wrong direction will make me and the bike fall over. So to anyone, don't just assume I need help and touch my bike without permission, because I will shout at you. Story 23. From a personal perspective, it's people trying to give me advice on my disability. It's been 30 fucking years, and described by my neurosurgeon as pretty bloody complex. So no, a couple of trips to a quack chiropractor isn't going to miraculously fix it. People tend to treat me as a problem that needs fixing and make me feel like I'm not doing enough to magically get better. It makes it incredibly frustrating to try and cope with it on a daily basis as I'm constantly in pain. And then someone comes out with a bit of advice, and it takes a lot of effort not to lose my shit with them, having a shitty time of it at the moment, and I can't talk to anyone because it always ends up with them trying to give me this kind of crap advice, despite telling them over and over that it's doing the opposite of help. Sometimes I just need a shoulder to cry on. Story 24. The fact nobody knows what the hell is even going on around them and we are all just winging it. No adult has their life fully figured out, and as Joker says, we are all just on bad day away from going insane. The idea that the whole day today could crumble in a moment, and I would have no control over it, is terrifying as an adult. But as a child, I never noticed it, or paid any attention to it. Story 25, after-school programs for at-risk youth. In college, I was an after-school teacher. It wasn't teaching, it was babysitting. The teens literally learned nothing. The teachers were insanely uneducated themselves. They didn't know anything about math or science or grammar. Often the teachers and the students would just sit around the table and talk, or just go to the movies or something. Story 26. Being tough on yourself on the inside, like a stern coach shouting at you to get your ass in gear. You may think you need that to snap out of not doing well, but really it's just harming yourself. You need instead to be your own best friend and support yourself when you're not succeeding, not doing well, etc. You have to treat yourself like you would a friend of yours who was struggling. You'd support them, not scold and berate them. So don't do it to yourself. Story 27. Recycling, more or less. It works well for metals and glass, I think, but most paper and plastic gets sorted incorrectly, can't actually be used that many times cause the polymer's fibers break down, or are just shipped to other countries where it's burned or buried anyway. Story 28. Unsolicited advice in general, but especially unsolicited medical advice towards chronically ill disabled people. Saying that I should try yoga or telling me about this one weird MLM smoothie your coworker's sister's aunt swears by isn't going to cure my genetic neuromuscular disorder, Brenda. But seriously, these remedies are bogus 99% of the time, and I don't think most able-bodied people understand just how frequently complete strangers feel like they can shower you with unsolicited advice. I get how a lot of times it's coming from a place of genuinely wanting to help, but it's exhausting and actively unhelpful. Story 29, when someone offers generic advice like just cheer up or don't worry about it, to someone who is struggling with mental health issues like depression or anxiety. While the intention might be to provide support, these phrases oversimplify complex issues and can make the person feel invalidated or misunderstood. In reality, addressing mental health concerns often requires professional help, empathy, and understanding from loved ones. Simply telling someone to cheer up doesn't address the underlying issues and may even exacerbate feelings of guilt or inadequacy. Story 30. It's not very popular, but some people actually believe that giving advice to someone with hallucinations is helpful. If you're not licensed, please don't tell any person your opinion on their inner workings. I'm talking about calling the person a demon, telling them that they are a messenger of some deity, performing an exorcism, even trying to get them to buy smelling salts from Bath and Body. I can't vouch for adults, but I can vouch for me and kids from my experience that it only makes stuff worse. Example A. 13YO with albinism, lived with her single mom. Their situation sounded exactly like Carrie's 20th century horror movie, and looked like it too. We stole documents from the techs. Girl felt so bad about her hallucinations that when we celebrated her birthday, they had to threaten her with a feeding tube to get her to eat because she wanted to starve herself to death. Example B. 15YO redhead girl who was a lovely painter, had the most depressing voices ever. And when you're residing in one of the crappiest psych wards known to man, the white coats don't exactly have degrees. They messed her up real bad, so much that she had to go to residential. Example C. 6YO, darker Asian boy, wetted the sheets every night, screamed a lot, had to be sedated a lot, came back a lot. He had visual hallucinations that made him lash out. A bonus, is that every time they dragged him away, he would scream for his mom to help him, all the way to the table, pleading and screaming for his mom like they were going to kill him, until he was pumped full of the juice and fell asleep. Rinse and repeat. Example D. South American African boy, not U.S. American, he immigrated. Don't remember his age. He was extremely skinny and moderately tall. I believe a good amount of his family had different kinds of hallucinations and attributed them to something religious. Didn't speak good English, so he was always targeted by the techs. I'm pretty sure a lot of stuff they did to him was illegal. But you can't have a camera in psych wards, so who's gonna tell? Example E. 17. Long-hair dude. Stayed for 5 days. Never changed his clothes. He was actually admitted due to being beat up by cops, but he told everyone later on that he took a lot of drugs to cope with the presence of his mother's ghost. The psychiatrist gave him a pretty shitty diagnosis. Really, nobody in the staff treated him nicely. They all looked down on him for drugs and alcohol, even though they were committing child abuse. For some reason, he was given an honorary N pass by the other older kids to use against the psychiatrist. Story 31. Cleaning up a mess, but doing so in a way that is not your level of clean. My husband will do a chore to help me, but the OCD inside of me cannot stand how he will put something away unorganized every time. So I just end up doing the chore because in the long run, it is more helpful and satisfying to me if I do it the way I like it done. I know I am the problem here because it's not just one chore, it's all of them. LL. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Be sure to write comments and share your stories.